Justin here from Aftershoot. We're going to give people a few minutes. I think I went a minute or two early, but we're going to give people a few minutes to come in and learn more and see more. I'm going to go to our Facebook group and make sure that we are actually live there while I wait for some people to stream in. If you're here, do let us know. Where are you from? Where can we find you? I see one person, two people. And hopefully you can hear me all right. I have my phone on the side here to look at comments. So chime in. Where are you tuning in from today, everybody? I got Ray Alvarez, who's filming as he's typing him using Aftershoot. Now that's a testimonial right there. Ray does amazing work. We just saw him at Shutterfest. If you don't know Ray, definitely check his work out and his teaching out. We have Marietta Hardwick. She's here. She doesn't count. She does count. So you may have seen Marietta at some of our conferences as we float around, always running around, doing things and being awesome. So thank you for supporting us. It's been a while since we've done a lunch and learn from home. So we were traveling the world showing Aftershoot to a bunch of people. So we started in Las Vegas. We ended up in Spain at Boda F. We went to Greece for PWS, Photo Wedding Stories, and then we closed it out at Shutterfest. So literally world traveling the past few weeks. So, I see Kristen from CloudSpot. Hello. CloudSpot is a gallery service that we love to hang with. They do some really cool stuff. So you can find some more information about CloudSpot around the interwebs and on our place. Bruno, hello. Oh, he's ready. Bruno is ready. All right, so I got about 50 people. That's a pretty good number. I think you guys are super excited to see what we're doing today. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the Founders Deal because that is the big thing right now. We got to get you in now, lock in that price for forever. So today's live is really just going to be a lot of showing off Aftershoot, helping coach you guys through some of the edits stuff, helping you build better profiles. So we really want to set you up for success because we have a really small window, right? Where our Founders Deal is almost done. And then you will not get that good of a deal on unlimited editing and unlimited culling for a very, very long time. So I want to make sure that we get you guys set up, that you try it, that you experience it, that I answer questions and everything before we get going. So there isn't any sort of major, huge announcement that you're going to want to stick around for, but I will absolutely drop all sorts of hints and answer any questions that this is Ask Me Anything, and I will answer it as best I can. So thank you all for tuning in. Hello, Dan Manning and Nicole. It seems my connection is laggy. Can anyone else confirm my connection issues before I press on and share my screen? Or if I look good to everybody, then that's awesome too. Well, I'm going to share my screen anyways. I'll be watching the comments on the side here. I'm all by myself today, but I did want to really just show you everything I could today about Aftershoot edits, because that's where we are. We're here, we're editing, and we are ready to do this. So if you haven't downloaded Aftershoot edits yet, it's super simple. You can head to aftershoot.com/downloads. You can download the latest version there. If you haven't updated lately, we did have an update. We're now on 2.6.636. So do make sure you're on the latest version, because there are some new models and things that kind of make your old profiles not necessarily work as well as before. Nicole Apuzzo Kane, I am super excited to answer all of your questions. So please do ask questions, but I'll get started and just kind of walk you guys through what building a profile really means and some of the things that can, really help you build better profiles and how to build profiles faster. So Aftershoot has a lot of advantages to how you can actually build these profiles and the best way to do them. But what I try and stress to everybody, it's really important to give it a diverse set of work because we don't want to just see your best shoots and we don't want to see just your bad shoots. We want to see a little bit of everything so we know what to do when we encounter different situations. So what I actually have here is I have one Lightroom catalog that has a bunch of weddings in it. Now, the cool thing is that you don't need to do this. So I used to be a single catalog person. I used to just do one catalog per wedding. Aftershoot allows you to import 15 different catalogs. So you can take 15 different catalogs and import them at the same time. And I'll show you how to do like 2 or 3, but the process is the same for 15. So you don't have to go super crazy. But I do want to stress one thing that I believe is super important, not only for Aftershoot, but just for workflows in general. And that is using smart previews. So smart previews are essentially small files that we would find located in your Lightroom catalog. You have to build those smart previews, right? So building those smart previews does take a little bit of time, but it speeds up the editing process. It speeds up the training process. And ultimately, the advantages of just being able to disconnect a hard drive with images attached to it are huge. So what I actually started doing for my sake is I started using the little SSD drives for my Lightroom catalogs because they're very fast. And I host my smart previews and my Lightroom catalogs there. And then my raw images actually sit on an external hard drive, like one of the spinny guys, because they take up so much. A wedding takes up so much space for me. And with so many weddings, I go through those drives like crazy, right? I'm like constantly buying new ones at $100 a piece, whereas the same size SSD drive is going to cost a lot more. So I use the SSDs for my Lightroom catalogs. And what that means is that because I built smart previews, I could actually unplug the raw images and still be able to edit and run Aftershoot edits, but also run Lightroom editing as well. So I'm going to show you really quick how to build some smart previews because this is really, again, one of the important things. And I'm watching the comments, so please interrupt me, ask questions. I'm always happy to get sidetracked here. So I feel like I have friends watching because I'm all by myself. So first thing I'm going to do, I have a bunch of Lightroom collections here. So I build collections personally. That's my style because I do import everything from culling, right? So I'm bringing all my images from the cull in, and then I filter by 5 stars and work on those. So as you can see over here, I have a whole bunch of weddings and they're all here with all of the images, and I filter by 5 stars, which has gotten me down to 14,000 photos, right? So this is just like my October last year. So I have 14,000 edited photos ready to go. What I'm going to do is actually build the smart previews for all of these edited photos. Most of them are already, there, but that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to just click on library so that I can see all of the photos, right? And so I do have that filter set up, right? So I am looking at only the 5 stars from all of those weddings. And I'm going to hit Command A, right? I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to go to library, previews, build smart previews. Now, like I said, most of these should have smart previews, so this should be pretty quick. But that's what I'm going to do here. Now, if you don't have your images in a Lightroom catalog, on the import screen, which I'll show you, you can actually build the smart previews on import, which is, again, a huge time saver. If Lightroom has to take its time to import anyways, you might as well use that because then the AI editing is super fast. You can do like 100 images in about 30 seconds with smart previews, but without smart previews, you're looking at a few minutes. And so Nicole asked, do only smart previews work for this process? I make embedded previews typically. That is correct. It is only the smart previews. So we will only be able to build smart previews or only be able to operate on the smart previews, not the embedded ones, because the embedded ones aren't actually the files we would need to utilize. And I did see Catherine asked, do you move your Lightroom catalogs over to with the RAWs after you finish editing? So I actually, because I started last year, because of how this all kind of unfolded, I actually started making bigger catalogs, as you can see. So I started doing, kind of monthly ones or quarterly catalogs, so I could have a lot of sessions in the same place. And I leave them be, right? So I don't actually move the Lightroom catalogs anywhere. I let them hang out there. And then eventually I'll probably port them over to a hard drive somewhere else, as I don't need them anymore. But for now, I haven't started this wedding season yet, so I don't need to clear any space. So I'm going to leave them there. And a lot of what I do here is actually build profiles. So I play with different settings and different things and see what kind of different profiles I can make. And now the reason I went to this system uh, of using segments of catalogs is because I found that last year when we were testing a lot of this stuff, I needed bigger data sets, right? So I wanted a whole bunch of weddings in the same catalog. And then it just ended up being a system that kind of worked for me because I could simultaneously look at multiple weddings from the same time frame. So I could do sneak previews for the wedding on Friday and immediately start doing sneak previews for the wedding on Saturday without having to wait for one to export to close the catalog and move on. So I just found for my workflow that batching these into smaller chunks is great. But while I have your attention on Lightroom catalogs, I want to stress my favorite thing to tell everybody when it comes to Lightroom catalogs, and that is the bigger the catalog, the slower it is to load every single image. So a lot of what we've done with Aftershoot revolved around Lightroom catalogs, right? So we edit your Lightroom catalogs. We have to be involved in the Lightroom catalog. And I learned a lot from a photography perspective of how Lightroom catalogs work. And what I found is that when you start having huge catalogs, the amount of time it may take to load an image exponentially increases the larger the catalog is. So ideally, you should not have these massive catalogs. I've seen a lot of users come in with like 100,000 photos in a catalog and whatnot. We did a lot of speed tests early on about this as well. So this catalog has some 65,000 photos in it compared to the one from the month before, which only had like 30,000. It is 3 times as fast on the 30,000 catalog as it is on the 65,000 catalog. And that's not like Aftershoots portion. That's the Lightroom portion. That's going from image to image, waiting for edits to load, responsiveness of Lightroom. So, over time, if you have those huge catalogs, you're spending a lot more time just waiting on Lightroom to load something than you would be actually working. So it's really important. That's something that I love. I love teaching people. Everyone has a slightly different system, and we can operate in all of those systems, right? So if you handed us a catalog with 100,000 images, or in this case, I have 65,000 images, we can still function. We can still do everything we need to do if you have one universal catalog. But I would highly recommend breaking away from that system on time, just for speed's sake. Yeah, that's definitely one of the really important things. I don't think everyone necessarily knows, but if you know it's going to take you longer, 100%, I would bypass that at all. So back to the fun, exciting stuff. So we built some smart previews here for these weddings already. Again, just to reiterate, that was library, previews, build smart previews. And again, this is just going to make the entire process faster for training, for uploading. Everything will just go much quicker. So now we're going to head into Aftershoot and build a catalog. I am going to just scroll through here quickly and show you what I'm talking about. So I have this wedding. It was a very orange, funky colored wedding, right? So it's not my ideal shooting scenario. So I want that represented here. So I gave it that kind of like funky wedding. There's like DJ lights and whatnot. And then I come down, we'll go a little bit further. So then I have one down here that's like in a barn, right? Everything's really dark, underexposed. So I wanted that represented. And then we're here where you have these, partly cloudy, kind of mixed lighting situations, a little bit of off-camera flash in the sun. So again, I'm representing a little bit of everything that I expect it to do. And that's what's most important, is making sure that it has the data, the information it needs. The best way to put it is AI is basically an assistant to you, but it's an assistant that you can't really directly communicate with. I can't go to the AI and say, okay, I want you to bump the exposure by about this much, and I want you to take the highlights down and the shadows up and the contrast. You can't give it those specific instructions and then turn and say, okay, this is a fluorescent lighting condition, so I need you to take that that tint and bring it way up high. So what's really, really important here, or good to note, is that it needs to see examples. It's that assistant that you can't talk to. The only way it can learn from you is by actually seeing a bunch of versions of what you need it to learn. So you have to give it a bunch of off-camera flash conditions. You need to give it a bunch of on-camera flash conditions. You need to show it the cloudy day, the sunny day, the partly cloudy day, the golden hour. You need to represent everything you expect it to be able to do in order for it to learn that style and how to do that for you. So again, here's your golden hour session. Learn how to edit like that. With off-camera flash as well here. So it's getting all these versions. Like this is off-camera flash with the fake sun. That's a whole nother thing that I edit a little bit differently than I would be editing if it was just off-camera flash with golden hour, right? Because now I have different settings that I'm starting with, and my outcome is expected to be different. So again, these are all things that the AI needs to get a good handle on. Here's a good example. This window light from this particular hotel is really weird. It's got a tint on it, so I want to make sure I represent some of that so that it understands how to white balance in certain conditions. But also I want to give it some window light of a wedding that isn't weird, right? I want to show it what natural window light would look like where the window wasn't tinted, how it should edit that. So again, this is a huge set of data, right? These are 14,000 images that I'm going to teach it all of these different things on. If you don't have that big of a catalog, that's okay. If you don't have 14,000 images, if you only have 2,500 images, you can still get started, but you may want to try and make a couple different profiles to get started, right? You may want to make one that's really, really diverse. And then you may want to go to something that's, not so diverse, where you're just kind of showing like the general style you want it to, and then experiment. Aftershoot makes it really easy to rerun catalogs, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit as well. But you can rerun the same catalog over and over and get all the different profiles to edit that catalog. And that's huge because you can make a couple different profiles at the same time and then see which one actually performs best for you. And then delete the other ones if you don't want them, or you can add files and experiment and really dial it in, because as photographers, we shoot differently, we edit differently. I learned a lot of my own biases within editing because of the profiles I built. So it's definitely good to know. So now the next most important thing as we go to build this profile, we have to close Lightroom. We require Lightroom to be closed for everything you're doing, whether you're building a profile, whether you're editing the images. Do not have your Lightroom catalog open because that is not good. So I'm going to quit that and head on over to Aftershoot. Here we go. I'm going to answer a couple questions too, because I saw a couple pop up here. Great info on the speed of catalogs. I do every event in a new Lightroom. Yeah, exactly. Every event in a new catalog is super fast. Like I said, I found it beneficial for me to do it by months, like especially because I have some months that are busy, some that are slow. So doing, kind of breaking it down into smaller segments, but being able to work simultaneously on like the 3 weddings I have in May will be really good, right? Or the 10 weddings I have in September, they can all be in one place. So I can do sneak peeks. I can constantly be editing, revising, and doing all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. Nicole asked, should we be removing unedited images from these training catalogs? You do not need to remove unedited images. We will automatically know what images are unedited. So if the sliders have not been touched, we will not consider them. If you did apply a preset on import, Aftershoot will look at them as potentially edited. So you may want to filter down using, whatever the system is that you would use on export, whether it's flagged or unflagged. You would want to filter down to just those edited files if you did apply a preset. But you don't have to remove them. Again, you just have to direct it to know what is actually the edited ones. I see Kevin has a question kind of about culling. That's interesting. If you could potentially reach out to support, they may have you send over some images to see. We are, hopefully going to have some more categories coming soon to look at things like that. So we definitely love to know more of what we can do better in that. Nayla looks to see, I haven't looked yet. Is there a way to duplicate a profile and add more edited images to further train? So you can add more images. We don't have duplication yet. We are working on it. So that you would either just right now be able to improve, or if you still have the catalogs and smart previews, you could just take those same catalogs, smart previews, build that new profile and add those new images to it instead of duplicating it. But we do plan to offer duplication as well. So we're going to build a new profile right here. So in the upper right-hand corner, you see that plus new profile. We're going to just name it Aftershoot Live. And now this is really important, and this is something that tends to come up often, is whether it's RAW or JPEG. So if you're watching and you have not built a profile yet, your images need to be the images that you shot in camera and edited. So essentially what that means is that we aren't looking for your exported JPEGs. So let's say you shot in RAW and then you exported them to JPEG. You cannot import those and have us understand your editing from there. What we need is actually the RAW photos or JPEG photos that you edited. The edits are applied in that Lightroom catalog. So you can see that the sliders are moved, everything's changed. So we need to be able to see that in order to build the profile. So if you don't have the original catalogs with the edits in them, we won't be able to pull edits from exported files. And for those who use Adobe Bridge, there is a way to actually save your edits to XMP file and import them into Lightroom, so you can still, transfer over to Lightroom, use it from Adobe Bridge or Camera Raw. You can actually have those imported into Lightroom, but you would still need to be in Lightroom for us to edit your catalog. So there is a way to do that as well. And then, like I said, it's what you actually shot and applied your editing to. So if you shot in JPEG and edited your JPEGs, changed sliders and whatnot, that Lightroom catalog, we can utilize that for a JPEG profile, and you can only do one at a time. So you can't have a RAW and a JPEG profile created at the same time. You can create them separately and just run the catalog through twice, one to edit the RAWs, one to edit the JPEGs. Down here, you do have to dictate whether it's a color profile or a black and white, because we will ignore the opposing, right? So if you choose black and white, we'll ignore any images that were not converted to black and white, and vice versa. We do not have support for virtual copies. That's personally how I do my black and white. So if you're looking for virtual copy support, that's coming very soon. We are waiting to do that until we got people a little bit more familiar with the product to help alleviate any confusion there. So I'm going to choose from recent. You can drag and drop your photos. You can browse your computer, but this is going to show me all the Lightroom catalogs that I've opened up recently. And this is the one that we're going to actually build that profile on. And it's letting me know again that I have a large Lightroom catalog detected, so it may take a few minutes. And I am going to actually add a secondary catalog, or a second and a third, just to show you guys what it would look like for multiple catalogs. So you can see those first two smaller catalogs loaded pretty quickly, and that large one took a little bit longer. And I'm going to click continue now. I have the 3 catalogs I want to do. Like I said, up to 15 Lightroom catalogs. So you can take 15 different events or catalogs that you have. If you did individual catalogs, you can do 15 at a time, put them all in. And all you have to do is that next step, which is just filtering it down to choose what's actually edited and what you want it to do. So here is that screen, right? So we've landed on the screen where we're going to filter. So the first one, this first catalog, it's a smaller catalog. I only have a handful of things edited in here. So I'm only going to pick these 4 things, and I want to filter it to only the 5-star images, because I only deliver my 5-star images in these sessions. I can filter it by collections too if I'd like, but instead we're going to leave it as a folder. Next, I'm going to come down here. Let's see if I have a collection. No collection in this one. So in this one, I will do the same thing. I'm going to just select these 3 folders because these are where I was editing from, but I actually only edited a handful of images in here. So as you can see, like this last one, I didn't edit anything from, so I could deselect that. And add that in. And then now we're on to that big catalog. Remember, 14 different weddings or something along those lines. So I have this big catalog here. And I'm going to actually filter to my collections. So every single collection that I've edited, I just mark it as done. I write done on it. So now I'm going to go through and just highlight all of these and keep adding them back in, all the ones that are done. And again, same concept. I'm only delivering 5 stars. So if something for me doesn't get delivered, I either delete it or I get rid of the star as I'm going through. But you see, I can filter by flagged images as well. I built a profile that was based entirely on highlights, right? My sneak peeks, because I flagged my sneak peeks, and I took all my catalogs and just built a sneak peek profile, and it actually was pretty good. It had a good representation of data. But now you can see I'm up to 15,223 photos. So I have all of these available. I did my filters right, my 5 stars, my collections, my other catalog here. I just picked these ones and just the 5-star images. And then down here, I went ahead and, just said, okay, let's get these handful that were actually edited by me that are 5 stars. And then all I have to do is hit upload and let it do its magic and run through and go build its profile and send me my own magical unicorn. So I'm going to take a quick pause and look at a couple questions. Is there a way to keep the year offer to pay it monthly? We will eventually add a monthly option, but right now everything's this founder's deal, right? It's an amazing deal. And the reason we're doing it this way is to really just get you locked in, right? We want to know that you are going to be in the edits camp. We're trying to, gauge a lot of what the usership is going to look like and how to better the product right now. So we're very, very, set on that. And we want to give people an exclusive deal. We know that this is a fantastic price for what it is, but it's not necessarily the plan that everybody needs. We understand that because the lower volume may not need as much. Or if you're more of a seasonal, like just a couple months out of the year, you may only need it here or there. So there will be some plans coming. They won't be as cost effective as this, but that was the big push here, is to let everyone kind of lock in this price and be in the system and get used to it while it's available. Bruno, I don't know if this is an early question, but if we create a profile and want to choose a kind of preset applied for a second version of the photos, like the same event in a moody look and a bright look, do we have to create another aftershoot profile, or will we be able to choose applying the preset only? So you would want to make a separate profile, Bruno. So if the style is different, you would want to have 2 different profiles available to you. Hi, Sandra. But yeah, you would want to have 2 different profiles for those looks. But again, it is quite easy. So if you have that second profile, you can just run it through really quickly and have those 2 different looks available to you. Just another note while I'm on this screen, there is going to be a couple of warnings on this screen. So we're working with some users. We have that 24-hour in-app support. So when somebody notices that they're getting some errors or issues within these catalogs, like maybe it says 0 out of 0, usually there's a reason for that. So if you reach out to support, they'll try and help troubleshoot it. A lot of times it ends up being they chose black and white and there's no black and white images, or they chose JPEG and they're only shooting in RAW, or they're choosing to import those images that were exported and there actually isn't any edited images in the catalog. They're just JPEGs. But another good note up top, if there was any missing files, so no smart previews or no raw files for any of these, it would point it out up at the top. Generally speaking, you shouldn't expect a lot of those unless your hard drive with the raw files are completely gone. And then in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see down here, it's going to let you know what's been edited, what's not edited, JPEG images, virtual copies. It's going to tell you everything it's excluding. So down in the lower left-hand corner, that's a really good, I realize my name may be covering it, but there's a red bar that says excluded photos where you would be able to actually see why they're excluded. So in this case, there's 37,000 photos that have no edits in this catalog. Nothing was applied to them, so they could not be considered. So even if I did the select all filter for all of these photos, it would ignore them because they haven't been edited. But as always, please do reach out to support if you have specific questions about something not functioning, because a lot of times it's just a couple questions and we can actually figure out where it is and why it isn't working and what happened to it. So in that case, I'm going to head back to home here and I'm going to show you guys how to view your AI profiles and how to improve them. So, and then we'll talk about how to actually edit them. So in order to view your profiles, you can either click on the View Profiles button or your name in the upper right-hand corner. Nicole wants to know, what number of edits should we plan to submit for training? So the minimum amount of images is 2,500. This is the perfect screen to ask that question on because you can actually see how many images I've used for different profiles. So I have a whole variety. I have this one that has 5,000. I have this one that has 4,000. This one has 16,000 images. And then this one has 9,000. This one has 12,000. My best performing profile, or the one that I like the most, tends to be this one called Valentine's profile. It's 11,000 images. Is it the best across all scenarios? Yes, but I didn't build in a couple of things that I expected it to do. So, there's some use cases where I didn't train it on what happens when I have like a church. And so that profile doesn't know how to edit a church. So if I have a church ceremony, I'm going to skip over and go to this one called Justin's profile, because I did include some churches in that one. So that like kind of funky white balance, it doesn't know how to adapt to it because it never saw it in my Valentine's profile, but it has seen it in Justin's profile. So it does know what to do in that case. So again, that's just a perfect example of, if it's never seen it, if it's never been given the tool it needs to learn from, it won't be able to do it. So Nicole, in your case, like I said, the more the merrier, right? We want to get a whole bunch of images from you. So you do get to build multiple profiles. So definitely experiment a little bit. Maybe make one with 5,000 images. Maybe make one with 10,000 images if you have it, and make a third one that has maybe 7,000 images, but has a different mixture of the two profiles that you created. And I'm going to show you by the end of this how to actually run through multiple profiles so you can do a side-by-side comparison and see what the actual edits look like for each one. So just to get you guys into how to improve a profile. So as you can see, I didn't complete that profile because I'm not going to burden the internet with that right now while I'm on a live, because it does have to upload those catalogs and those smart previews to the server. So, and I had a little bit of internet problem before. So I am going to click on this catalog and I'm going to click improve profile. And now you can see these are the two catalogs that it already used. And I can decide to add a third catalog if I'd like into this. So I'll just show you what it looks like, but it's essentially the same process. So I'm going to choose this catalog. I'm going to add it in. It's going to verify that the catalog is closed. Again, make sure your Lightroom catalogs are closed. I'm going to click on continue now because that catalog's there. The smart previews are there. And it's just going to, again, make sure that everything's where it's supposed to be. And then now I'm going to just tell it what I want to add to this profile. So as I mentioned, I marked done on a lot of my edits here. So there you go. Only my 5 stars from these. So now I have another 4,000 images that I'm able to upload and retrain this profile on. So again, I could click upload. It would start uploading that process. I will not do that while I'm on the live because I don't want to stress anybody. Bruno wants to know, can we have access to a Valentine's profile version? So we do have profile sharing in the works, and I will 100% give every single profile that I think is decent to you all from my end. So everything that I've done that I think is good, that I've created, I'm happy to share. So my editing style is kind of boring, but it does its job. So I'll be happy to share that with any of you. And I'm going to leave that. Again, I'm not going to improve it right now, but that's how you would go about improving a profile. That's to add new catalogs to it or to correct edits that have already been made. But I'm going to show you how to do it the other way as well, because there's 2 ways to do this. So first I'm going to go to new album and we're going to go over the editing process. So I'm going to choose a catalog. We're going to run this catalog here. I'll add it in. And now what I can do is choose the profile I want to use. So we're going to go ahead and edit this under this profile. I'm not going to crop and straighten here, but you can crop and straighten in the upper right-hand corner. So you can choose the crop and straighten, and you can choose what Adobe profile you'd like to use, or if you're using a custom profile that would appear here if you trained on that profile. So make sure when you're training it that you're using the appropriate profile in those edits. So it would appear here. So I could change it to if I had a custom one available to me. So I do have probably about 115 images that we can edit in this catalog. I'm going to go to my collections, and here are my 115 images. I'm going to select also because I think there's a couple that didn't get 5-starred in there. And now I'm going to just click on edit. So again, it's a very similar process. You're telling it what collection or folder you want it to edit. You're showing it edit only the flag, the rejected, unflagged, whatever you want. I chose everything in this case because the collection is meant to be edited over and over. And I'm going to click on edit. And what's going to happen is I have my smart previews built already. So it's going to say generating previews. But once it realizes that it's got all of the smart previews, it's going to skip straight into the editing. And it shouldn't take more than 30 to 45 seconds to get this off the ground and edited back to me. Now we're going to go through that editing. Let me see if I have any more questions while we're here. Bruno, yes, it is a lot of fun to experiment. So I actually, I have a profile or two that I borrowed just to experiment with, and it's been so much fun. And honestly, just building my own profiles has been so much fun because I'm like, oh, I'm going to try like all these random combinations of weddings and see what I get, or random shoots, and see how well the AI learns and performs. And that's one of the cool things about having the ability to do all those Lightroom catalogs at the same time. I can just upload them all, go back and start over with different sets and experiment and play with those things to really try and fine tune one that I feel like represents all the editing styles I need to their best ability. So we just edited all of those photos, all 115 photos right here on the live, and we landed on our screen. So now I can choose to review in Lightroom, but instead I'm going to show you a couple things first. So one of the things we have down here is the improve AI button. So along the bottom, I could click that and it's going to show me that Lightroom catalog I just edited. And it's going to ask me to just make sure that I'm choosing whatever it was, these 115 photos. And I can upload those 115 photos to, again, have it learn from the changes that I made to that Lightroom catalog. So after you've completed your revisions and your edits to that catalog, you land on this screen and you can come right back to it, right? So from home, I just click on editing and it'll land me on the screen and I can say, okay, I'm done editing and changing the stuff. Now the AI can take that information and learn from it. So that's a really useful, awesome feature here to be able to just, again, fine tune that profile and get it better and better as time goes on. Now, what I'm going to show you is my favorite thing, which is editing the same thing over and over again. So I love going through and just running a couple different profiles along the same set of photos. So then in my edits history, I can go back through and compare the profiles side by side. So I can determine, hey, this profile did better, this one did worse. And what I did here is actually built a catalog of 115 images from different weddings. So I gave it all sorts of different conditions to try and edit so we could learn how well it interacts and if I have a good profile or a bad profile. Now, important to note, it really does matter what data you give it, right? The outcome, the end edits that you get are entirely going to revolve around exactly what you are presenting to it. So again, really important. If you feel like your profile is not performing well, it very well could just be a data issue. So no, a data set that needs a little bit of help or some changes to it. So again, I'm just running through multiple profiles here as I blab away. But that's a great thing to be able to see is just compare, see if you're built maybe a profile, because we have biases. And like I said earlier, I learned my personal biases in the wintertime. I white balance a lot bluer than I do in the summertime. It's a lot more yellow. So it's really, it's something that I didn't know I did until I experimented. And then I realized like, oh, this profile is probably better for my winter weddings and this profile is better for my summer weddings. And it's something that a lot of photographers don't necessarily know. It's just something that you don't know until you actually experiment. So definitely play around with it a little bit. Let me run it through one more here. We're going to just play with this one and see how it goes. And then we'll head back and I'll show you how to review all of these and do those profile comparisons. Now you are able to use up to 5 different AI profiles. So you can go through and build multiple profiles, up to 5 at the same time. For those who have specific use cases, you can reach out to support and explain to them, and they can up that limit for you temporarily so that you can experiment and play around with those more as well. And actually, I'm going to just finish off with my own profile so that we open it up and it at least looks somewhat pretty. So we'll go to the Valentine's profile. So Bruno, you get to check it out firsthand and see how well it does. So now we've edited all of these in a bunch of different ways. Nicole said, did you find that it took a few different data sets until you got some successful profiles? So I will say my initial profiles were good. I never really had a bad profile per se, but I did find that my best performing profiles came over time. So I spent more time, um, kind of just playing with different images. And then I really did find that the best profile wasn't the one that I expected at all. I expected it to be, the one where I had all these really great weddings. But the best performing profile was the one that was just like all mediocre weddings. It didn't need the best work because the best work almost edited itself. It needed the work where it wasn't as good and it just needed a little bit of help to get there. So I'm going to scroll up here and we will show some results. I have a couple more questions actually before I show this. Yep. So it's Bruno. It's awesome that you can just run them through. I'll show you in the history actually. So we'll pop in here. We'll go to develop, and you can see on the history here all these different profiles. And just by clicking on it, it'll show all the different ways it edits. A lot of these are my profiles, but then you have like Esteban, one of the great Esteban Gill. That's his profile. That's another one of his profiles. This is somebody else's profile that I borrowed. So you can edit in all these different styles over and over, right? And you saw how fast it was. So you can really just go through and do that. And I think, Bruno, you may have had the question about running it on multiple styles. So I could, in theory, now make a virtual copy of this image and then go back and just apply this edit, or choose the edit that I want and then make the virtual copy. So it's a little bit more work than, obviously, but you can also just decide to go through and make a duplicate catalog if you want and do that as well. So there are ways to kind of run multiple edits on it as well. Mike Curran wants to know, if you create a black and white profile, do you have all the photos rated separately in Lightroom? Or does Aftershoot know they are black and white when you set that in the filter? So when you set that in the filter, we'll ignore everything that's not been converted to black and white. Now, this is a really important note. Make sure that it's this button here, right? Converting it to black and white, because if you only desaturate your images, we won't be able to tell that it's a black and white photo. So we rely on it being actually converted to black and white, which the majority of black and white presets and profiles will actually convert it over to a black and white file. But just verify that if you're having trouble making a profile in black and white, if it's ignoring everything, that may be the issue. And if that's the case, you would need to separate them out by black and white files only to be able to do that. So I'll show you the before of that one too. So it did quite a number. This profile, not necessarily my style. These three are just slightly different, right? These are all based on my work. And you can see this last one, the shadows and highlights come up a lot. And that's because I had actually bought a mirrorless camera and I had to bring my shadows up a lot more. So I built a profile that was all new mirrorless camera. And what it does is that just immediately makes it bring the shadows up. And so we'll go through a couple more, but I do also want to show you guys something super awesome. So there is some quick little hacks you can do in the meantime to change your process a little bit. So if you were looking to, let's say, correct a profile that you didn't love the results of the profile, there's a way to do that. And I'll show you how. So before I do that, I'm just going to show you a couple more of these different looking profiles so you can kind of see how different styles would look on the same set of photos. Again, you can see that profile, the Maj profile, is one that's that one where the shadows are always going to be up a little bit higher because it's that mirrorless camera. So you can see that slight difference, right? It's learning that style for that. So let's just say that I got all my edits back and I felt like they were all a little bit too yellow. There's a fast track to getting your profile corrected. And the way to do that would be to actually select all of the images in your library mode and then just make that adjustment here. So your temperature, your tint, your exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, blacks, whites, clarity, and vibrance are all available to you on the screen. So you can decide that, like, if everything's just like a little bit overexposed, you can actually just click this button. I'm going to do it drastically so you can see what it does, but I'm going to reduce everything by a full stop. And now you can see all the images got darkened down. And then I could just go back and click improve profile, and it'll upload those changes. And immediately the profile is going to start editing a little bit darker. So this is a way that if your data set maybe isn't quite there, if you're finding a consistent error, like white balance is always too much this, or the exposure is always too little or too much, you can actually batch correct the entire gallery and re-upload them. Now, I say that because that's actually how I built some of these profiles. So some of these edits, I actually did go in and literally just, I applied a preset, batched everything, uploaded it, and I expanded upon an existing profile that way. And so Nicole has a silly question. No such thing as a silly question. This is the exposure Nicole prefers, or usually she increases our exposure by one stop. So that's what I'll do. So what the AI is actually learning is what it needs to do to correct the images to look the way that Nicole wants them to look. So I'll give you some good examples of what that means. So here you'll see like this is really underexposed. I tend to underexpose a lot. I shoot Nikon, so things are rarely in focus and the highlights are always blown. So I underexpose a lot and I take a lot of extra images to make sure that I have one that's in focus. And so that's a fantastic question, because what it actually does, you know, these sliders you'll see are going to adjust a lot as I go through. So it can vary, right? It went down to 1.6, but it's all the way up to 3 here. And the reason it's that way is because it's trying to get to my end result. So it's not necessarily looking to say, oh, this is properly exposed. It's looking to say, this is what Nicole wants her photos to look like, so we should do this. So it is a somewhat of a learned behavior. And whatnot. So that's one thing to definitely make sure. So like here you can see a +3. If I reset that, I really underexposed that bad. So it had to go all the way up to +3 to get that exposure the way I want to. If I come over here, this is why it was set to +3, is because I had it set for the bride. I had like a 10-foot aisle. So I had the exposure set for the like direct sun in her face. And this is the sun directly behind him, so he's in full shadow. So it jumped from 1.5. These are taken like 2 seconds apart, right? It jumped from 1.5 to 3.8 to get that desired look that I go for. So if you're editing in like kind of the bright and airy style, and you always are bumping your exposure, if you underexpose something, it's going to try and pull that exposure up a lot to make it. And sorry, Nyla. Yeah, it's actually the mirrorless is great. But yeah. So I saw Harshit said there's comments coming on Facebook that I am not answering. I'm trying to find them. I'm on the live. So actually, Harshit, I have the live on my phone. And I'm reading them as I go, but I guess I'm not seeing them there either. Or maybe they're coming from YouTube. So let me stop my screen share really quick and maybe I can answer some questions. And I did also want to talk about a couple other things. If you do want to see more of this kind of before and after stuff, I'm happy to show you some of it. But for now, I'll try and troubleshoot some stuff and answer some other questions for people and see who else is chatting. So we'll stop the share here and you'll see my mustache once again. So I'm going to open the chat here. I'm all ears. So any questions you have, I'm happy to answer. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's a little scribble down at the bottom for me. So I didn't wear my glasses today. And I'm going to just share this because we have Harshit in the house also chiming in, answering some questions. All right, so here I see them now. Here are the questions. Is masking to be included in the upcoming updates for edits, or is it on the roadmap? That is correct. So we are planning on masking. We have the team working on masking. We have a lot of really cool stuff. I can't, unless somebody asks specifically about it, I will not be able to yes or no it because I don't want to reveal too much of the amazing stuff that's coming. But yeah, so we are in the works on masking. And just so you know, this founder's pricing, that $500 means that the masking, you don't pay more for masking. It's in there, it's included, it's yours. And that's why the founders pricing is such a great deal and option, because every feature and every every update that comes with culling and editing is included. So when we get to masking, it's all yours. When we get to other things that I can't talk about, it's yours. You don't pay extra for it. You're locking in that price, and you're locking in that price for the rest of time. So you'll never ever have to like estimate how much your editing bill will be. You will just know $500 for culling and editing. That is all you'll spend. So that's definitely great question. We'll hide that one. Let me scroll through and go back. Here we have, can I use my edits on laptop and PC with one subscription? Yes, you can. So the AI profiles will actually download to each computer as well. So you can build one on your desktop and it'll download to your laptop when it's trained. And so you can use it on 2 different computers with the same subscription. Hide that one. Will this video stay up on the channel after this live? Yes, it will. So please do refer back to it. I'm going to pop up and answer. I know Harshit actually answered some of these, but I'll try and answer them with a voice as well. So does it make more sense to add more images into one profile or do more profiles with less images? So Greg, this actually really depends. So what's cool, like I said, is that you can build multiple profiles, so you can experiment, but ultimately it really depends on what your style is. What I personally found, my style is just, you saw it, it's straightforward. It's like regular white balance, a little bit warm on the white balance, like highlights and shadows and contrast tweaked. What I found is that I built, and I use this example every time, I built an engagement profile. For my engagement sessions only. I just took all my engagement sessions and put them in. My engagement sessions almost always happen about an hour before sunset, and it's on a sunny day, right? Like I try and get my couples, I say, hey, you can reschedule for a sunset. Let's reschedule it to another day, because that's beneficial to you. You get sunset photos, and on your wedding day, you may not get sunset photos. So let's take the opportunity. So I would say 95% of the weddings I shoot, or the engagement sessions I shoot, are at sunset. And with that being said, I built a profile that was only engagement sessions. And then I tried to use that profile on an engagement session that was on a day that was a little bit more cloudy. We didn't have a sunset. The sun kind of pulled away really quickly, and it did terrible. It had no idea how to edit the images. It didn't really understand. It did pretty well on engagement sessions in general, right? Like when there was sun out, but it didn't know how to handle other situations. That being said, I built yet another profile where I mixed a lot of engagement sessions in with some weddings, so it had more balance. So I had like some cloudy day stuff and the sunset stuff, and it tended to perform a little bit better. So I definitely would mix and match a little bit. If you are building profiles that are on different like sort of editing styles, so let's just say you're tweaking totally different sliders, you may want to build a different profile for those ones. Let's see. I've made smart previews for a catalog, but I don't know where they are on my Mac, so I can get them into Aftershoot. So you do not have to put them anywhere. They will appear right next to the Lightroom catalog when you build them. So Aftershoot should auto detect them. There's no more connection. I know the tutorial video that's currently in the app, it's an older version where you did have to connect them, but that does not happen any longer. Let's see, diving in here. Let's see who else has questions that I haven't answered. Low volume shooter here. So we'll wait for different pricing. I've been using culling for the last couple of years. Fantastic. Yeah, so that's one of the things, right? The unlimited deal. It's really awesome if you're shooting, say, more than like a handful of sessions where you do need it for quite a bit of imagery. It's awesome to grow into as a plan as well. So if you're kind of early on in your career and you know this is the career you're taking, it's a chunk of money, but you can lock in a price for forever. Which is really cool. So to be able to kind of lock that in is helpful. No matter what you do, if you plan to grow your business, definitely. Otherwise, yes, you can absolutely wait. There is going to be other packages available. They may be better for smaller shoots, but they won't be quite as beneficial if you're doing a lot of sessions. And how long will it be for the preloaded profiles to pick from? He cannot get his catalogs to work. Yeah, so we do have some preloaded profiles in the works right now. So hopefully soon. And sorry to hear that you're facing troubles. I know that there are some things that we're running into with certain catalogs. So essentially, there's some people are just having general issues with like really large catalogs where they deleted a lot of stuff from them, because we follow file paths, and those file paths get chopped off. And then we're struggling to find the images. So sorry to hear you're facing trouble. I know if you are facing trouble, do try support. They may try and hook you up with one of us to get on a Zoom call so we can really troubleshoot in person with you. But yes, those are coming soon. And we're going to keep scrolling, looking for, let me go back down to the bottom here. Is there a way to create a profile with duplicate images? I'm a starter and I do not have 2,500 unique images, but do have a different profile for different events. So if you're getting started, if you do not have 2,500 unique images, I believe, and Harsha, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that we actually don't prevent you from uploading the same images again. It will bias the data set. So it'll give you the 2,500 to get started, but it's going to really significantly impact the outcome of the images. It's a great way to get started, just to get into your kind of style and your space, and then have them kind of starting to edit, and then just continue improving it as time goes on to get more as well. I do have a support question here. CR3 and ARW files don't work on older iMacs. So I didn't see that issue yet, but that's good to see and hear. We're going to share this one because I love this. I am locked in and so excited. So definitely do take advantage of it while it lasts. Let's see. I'm going to scroll back up a little bit here. Because I did skip over a lot of questions. Sorry, I'm trying to get to everybody. Where can I find the founders link? That founders link, I will comment it down below, but your emails should have it. Or if you just open the app, there should be that banner across the top as well, letting you know that you can subscribe if you didn't close out of that banner. Let's see. So workflow. This is a big one that I actually didn't even get to dive into. We're so intense on all the other things. And I'm willing to stay longer if people are willing to hang and want to learn some workflows. I'm more than happy to show you what I do personally. I know that was like a big intent of this, but we kind of just got so much going on. So as I'm culling then editing, I have multiple Lightroom catalogs for those new events I'm using Aftershoot. That's a fantastic workflow. I personally, like I said, will batch some together. So I like to have multiples at the same time, because also one of the things that I started doing, I can cull and edit a full wedding in under 3 hours. So now what I'm doing is like, I may save up a week's worth of weddings and just sit down for a couple hours and do them all, right? Because it's only 6 hours for me to do a full cull and edit on 2 weddings. So I may just like save a day and do it later, but they're together. So while one's exporting, I'm editing and revising the other one, so I can just keep it moving through. And I'll wait to see if people want to do want to see some workflow stuff. I can show that. And so this one, if you subscribe for the year at that price and then next year don't renew and cancel, but then decide to come back and renew again, will the price change? Yes, it will. So the founders deal is locking you in to our sphere, but if you were to cancel that subscription, you return to the regular plan as it is. So definitely try it and play with it and make sure you love it. And if you even see a glimmer of hope, it's definitely worthwhile to dive in. I know I personally, as a wedding photographer, it's mind-blowing. It's the best thing I've ever done. I didn't even show you the examples of like how nuanced it can get with editing. But yeah, it's fantastic. I think I already, okay. So I'm making separate catalogs for events to cull, then edit. Which Lightroom catalogs do I have to keep, all of them, or just that final culled and edited Lightroom catalog? So again, this is a workflow thing. I'm going to hang around and keep going. So if you don't want to watch workflow stuff, you don't have to hang for this. But I will show you probably the better workflows available to you, going back and forth from Aftershoot to Lightroom, and how to do that. So what I would say in that one, sorry, I'll pull that back up. What I would say in that case, you don't have to keep the Lightroom catalogs. It's up to you and what you see as being the most important. So like I said, if you're doing individual catalogs for each event, I always keep the catalogs, just because like this, right? We required the Lightroom catalogs to get you started here. So if you're deleting those old catalogs, they don't take up a lot of space. The smart previews do, so you may want to get rid of the smart previews, or at least delete the raws and keep the catalog in the smart previews. But that's just personally me. I keep all my catalogs just because I never know what I need or what I'm looking for, or if I wanted to ever go back and like maybe pull something for a print competition and really fine tune the edits and whatnot. So I do keep everything on hand, because you never know what the future may hold. Let's see. What if you don't have your 2022 weddings in Lightroom anymore? I know I have the raw files and the edited JPEGs, so I need to edit them all again in order to build the smart previews. Unfortunately, if they aren't appearing as raw files in Lightroom, you won't be able to build a profile with them. So we need to actually see the edits that you applied to the files in Lightroom, right? Because there's multiple ways to get to the same look. So as you edit photos, you could, in theory, to get to my style, there's like 4 different ways to edit like me, right? You could adjust the highlights, you could adjust the whites, they're interchangeable to a degree. You could adjust the tone curve instead. You could adjust the sliders below the tone curve. I could do it via profile, changing a profile differently. So we need to know all the steps and things that you're doing to get to that end result. So they do need to be the actual edited files, the edited raw images in Lightroom for us to be able to access them, and for you to build those smart previews. And how much longer is the founder's price up for? Still starting out, don't need as many edits, cheaper to go with competitor, but I'm not too fond of the concept of uploading and having it edited not locally. So founder's price is only up for, I believe, another week. So at best, you've got a week to dive in on this price. Like I said, there will be other packages available in the future. So it's not your last chance to buy it, and it will remain free until that official launch of those packages. So you will be able to buy into other levels. But if you're looking for unlimited editing, unlimited culling, this is the deal to buy. If you have that volume need, I would get in on this, because this package will only go up. And then the other packages that we will have available will have different restrictions and things to them. Again, still to be cheaper, but definitely. All right. So let's see. Coming all the way down. There's the link to the founders deal. I'm going to show it up here. Thank you, Aftershoot, for tuning that in. So edits.aftershoot.com/founders-deal. That's how you get it. That's how you buy in. Highly recommend getting in while you can. And so I do see some people that do want to dive in and learn a little bit about workflow. So I will show you personally. Again, you don't have to stick around. There's no big announcements coming from this point forward. You saw the deal. Get on that deal while it lasts, because it's going to go away soon. So if you see a need to have culling and editing, AI locked in at a set price for the year, dive on in, definitely. And I love this comment, because that's makes me very happy that we can get that. So here we go. Off to workflows for how to make this work for you. So I am going to show you what I would do. I'll just take a session that I've done and show you. I'll rerun everything through the culling, the editing. I'll show you how I go from start to finish on an entire session. I have like a little mini session that I can run it on. And I'll show you what that whole workflow would look like. Again, thank you all for joining and sticking around. And you don't have to stick around if you don't want to learn my workflow for this. So here we go. Sharing my entire screen. And what I am going to do is go into Aftershoot, and I'm going to start my cull. So I'm going to click on New Album, Start Culling, Add Folder. And I'm going to look for the session I want to edit. I think it's on my desktop. So here we go. Okay, so I'm going to import from this folder. I'm importing only the raws, and I'm going to click on Start Culling. This is a portrait session, so I want to make sure I choose portrait session for this. I'm going to set my blur to moderate here because I want to make sure that it wasn't a studio session. I did use a little bit of off-camera flash, but I was at like 2.8 and not really diligent about my focusing. So I'd like it to consider some of the images that are good emotion, but maybe not tack sharp. It's not a studio portrait session, so I would not run it on strict. Again, that's really important when you're setting these settings. If you are running it on a studio session, you can run it on strict. But if you are not shooting at ISO 100 or f4 or 5.6, I would definitely skip strict because it'll get rid of a lot of images that are technically okay and could be used, but aren't meeting that, heavy criteria of super sharp. I'm going to run this on similarish as well. That's my shooting style. I wanted to kind of reduce some images down. And then we're going to choose less for the duplicate sets. I will leave all of the other things alone. I don't need anything else changed. And I'm going to run start culling. And this should take just a minute or two. It's only 134 photos. But again, just want to show you the process start to finish for me on how I would do this. While I have this going, I'm going to just pop into my Lightroom. I think I may have already imported this. So I want to maybe, oh, I didn't. Okay, cool. Oh, no, I did. Just kidding. So we're going to make a new Lightroom catalog while I'm doing that. So we will put it on that SSD drive as I normally do. And these are just the photos I took at Shutterfest. So I will call it the Shutterfest catalog, and we'll come back over here and see what it's doing. It's processing those images. So here is my Lightroom catalog. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. You can start in Lightroom if you want. So you can import everything, build the smart previews to Lightroom, but it's trickier. You would have to import them and do some metadata stuff to make it happen. If anyone is interested in seeing that, you can comment. Let me open up the Facebook again. You can comment and I will show you how that works. So in this case, we got to 69 photos out of 134. 11 have closed eyes, or sorry, 3 are closed eyes, 11 are blurry, and 51 are duplicates. So I'm going to just go through. I don't necessarily need that many photos. So I'm going to just click away some of the stuff I don't want. Get rid of some of this extra stuff where the lighting wasn't quite on point. I do like that one. So I have my spray can mode set up to just get rid of some images here that we don't need. So by simply clicking on a photo, it's removing it from the selections. Don't like that one. Don't like that one. Sorry, I know it's super boring to just watch me cull live. I'll maybe find something that I can swap just to show you what a swap would look like. So I would just look and say, all right, let's pretend. Oh, it's selected. I was like, let me swap this one. All right, I'm gonna swap one that I don't like as much, but just for the sake of showing it, I'm just gonna hit the S key and swap it. Let's click on some more that we don't want. Get rid of that. Get rid of that, and just keep getting rid of stuff I don't want. Get it down to a number that I feel like I want to start with. Don't love these. Let's see. Oh, I kind of like this one with the dress up. I like them both. So I'm going to right click because I have my right click set to add it. So I added that one back in. We'll leave that one, get rid of that one. Let's see any duplicates here. That one's kind of cool. I'll swap that one. And again, just clicking to get rid of some stuff that I don't want. I don't have a set number that I want to give this because this was just, some stuff that we were just shooting as we went. So I'm just going to, again, get rid of some extra stuff. I'm not on any sort of contract or anything to deliver a specific number of photos. All right, so we're down to 36. I'm going to save the changes, and I'm going to, didn't mean to do that. I'm going to exit spray can mode. I'm going to select all of these images, and I'm going to drag and drop them right down into Lightroom. And so what's going to happen is Lightroom is going to import just those selections for me. So I'll have 36 photos in there. And I realized that I forgot to check the box to build smart previews. So I'm going to go library, previews, build smart previews. So it'll run through and just build those smart previews for those 36 photos. And is anyone curious to see what the other would look like if you have it? You know what? I'll do it after. Let's do this. I'll just show you this part. So I built my smart previews. I'll quit. I'll go back to after shoot. I'm going to head back to home, and now I'm going to click on the editing button. I'm going to choose from recent Shutterfest catalog. I'm going to add that catalog. I am going to crop and straighten this time. I know it's going to take a couple extra seconds, but I am going to do that. So I will just run it through. I would just want to select the folder now, edit those 36 photos. So it should take just a little bit of time. It's not a ton of pictures, so bear with me while it crops and straightens a little bit extra here to get me down. Now, I actually already did this while we were at Shutterfest. I did it like that night. I even did like a little bit of Photoshop work because I had like maybe 30 minutes of free time. So I was like, let me just do this and show that it can be done. And I had everything edited and done in 30 minutes. So as you can see, even on a short shoot, that's great. So I clicked edit again. Actually, let's not edit again. That'll just take too much time. So I'm going to just review in Lightroom now. And again, if you missed the earlier part of the live, we talked about all the important things you need to know about after shoot edits and the founder's deal. But right now, I'm just showing what it would look like for a workflow for culling and editing. So I'm going to go into develop now and click on a photo. And there you go. So my before and my after. Again, it doesn't need a lot of editing for what it is. Now, the crop and straighten isn't going to crop and straighten this. So I will come in and just bring that back a little bit. Same here. It's not going to do all of that for me. It's looking at the subject more than anything. Actually, I may need to Photoshop this one to make it, because I like to center my subject in the frame. So, I can fine tune the crops to essentially save my Photoshop work, but it's done all this, right? All this editing and everything for me. Like this one, I may tweak it and just bring up the shadows a little bit. Oh, too much. Just because I put the light above her to kind of give it that fallen angel look and whatnot. And it, just didn't quite hit her face the way it should have. That's why like these ones look great because it's lighting her face the way it should, but there was no light spilling on her when her face was down. So again, it's doing all of this on its own, cropping, straightening, editing, and I'm just fine tuning these crops because I overshot for the backdrop for a lot of these, right? I gave too much space because I was trying to capture the dress in motion. So I would have to come in and obviously Photoshop this one and Photoshop that one, but all of the other adjustments and everything are done, right? So I would just go through, maybe add exposure to that one. But I would just go through and do all these like kind of minor corrections to these photos. And that's it. Then I could export and move on with my life and not spend all my time behind the computer. So to be able to do this that fast is incredible. Because before, to cull 134 photos would take forever. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually just dive into, let me stop sharing my screen and see what other comments people have while I do something else. Michael wants to know, can I keep the Lightroom open when I edit and after shoot? You cannot. So we covered this a little bit already, but you 100%, you cannot have your Lightroom catalog open while you're editing. It will prevent you from doing it, but if you manage to sneak by, it'll actually corrupt the catalog. Now, we do make a backup of the catalog, so there is a catalog that's somewhere safe for you if you need it, but definitely not the way to go. So don't risk it. Close that Lightroom catalog every time. And so what I'm actually doing here is deleting all those XMPs to show you what it would look like if we started in this lovely program. So I'm going to read all the metadata from the files because this is a slightly different workflow. So if you're going to go through, if you're going to have your images in your, excuse me, if you're going to have your images in Lightroom first, that's a different workflow. So love the crop and straighten. What if you don't? Sorry, I'm looking at all these questions here. This is a great question I do want to cover. You do get the prorated refund. So if you've already paid for culling before, just reach out to support and they can prorate the refund for you. Can you improve your profile with less than 25 images? So right now we're only offering 2,500 images for the retrain. So you do need to come up with another 2,500, but it'll always be 2,500. And the reason is because we need a certain amount of data to actually influence the profile. Otherwise, that retrain, if you were to go about it, it wouldn't impact the final profile. So definitely good to know. If you're using On1 and Luminar Neo, can I build a profile without Lightroom catalogs? Unfortunately, you cannot. We are right now dependent upon Lightroom catalogs to build profiles, so you would not be able to do so without it. Jeff wants to know if there's custom cropping for Volume School. We will eventually have some stuff like that coming. So we have a lot of things working on. Awesome. And then here we have, I actually paid culling 1 year. After a month, I paid the edits. When it comes out, I'll ask for a refund then. Cool. Do it now. Why not? Get it out of the way. And this is an interesting question. Is there plans in the future to have it not pick photos that the flash can go up on? I'm not exactly sure what that question is. Nothing's impossible, but there's definitely, a lot of work that would go into something like that. So it depends on what it actually is. So answering some more questions here. Sorry. We bought the $500 deal. That bought the $500 deal, will we be charged since we signed up, or will we be charged when the official launch and beta ends? So you will get charged now. So the idea of the founders pricing here is to make sure that you guys are getting in on this locked in pricing. You will save more because the launch is only about a month or two away. So everyone who's buying in at this price now is getting a discounted rate that essentially when you get to that final official launch, it would cost you more to wait. So it does start now, right? So your subscription would start now for the year, but you're buying in on early to save money in the long run. So instead of paying like $700 a year or $750 a year for unlimited culling and editing, you'd pay $500, but you lock that in for the rest of your life. And it just starts now instead of starting in 2 months when it all wraps up. So let me check in. Sorry, there's so many questions. I tuned out for a minute, and then I got all these questions. All right, let's go. See, I want to just answer a couple more, and then I'll show you the other version while it's deleting XMPs in the background right now. So I can show you what it looks like if your images are already in a Lightroom catalog and you want to start there and then have it cull and edit those images. So, all right, let's just dive in. If you want to, I'm going to just write, ask me anything. So I'm going to know that's my cue. Everyone who says something after ask me anything, I will answer those questions after this next little sprint of showing you what it looks like to do the opposite workflow here. So I have my images imported into let me import everything here. Sorry. I'm going to import all of my images from that session. So here they are. I'm going to build smart previews on import. So it's going to import all these files, and then I'm going to make a quick little, actually, that's fine. It's the only thing in here. So as you can see, they're not edited. There are no stars and colors at all here, except for apparently one. Because that one's photoshopped. So I have no stars and colors. So now that they're all imported into Lightroom and the smart previews are building, I'm actually going to head back over here and go through the process of what it would look like to cull. So we'd go into the culling. I would make revisions. I would run the culling as I normally would, make the revisions and changes. And then what I would do is click on Save Changes. And now I have to do this because of what I did, but I'm going to actually just rewrite metadata because I deleted the metadata before. So I'm going to select all the images and rewrite metadata or save results, right? So now all of the files have their stars and colors applied to them. So these 141 photos have now the ability, I have to come back, right? So from Aftershoot, you do have to cull. And I know it's kind of complicated to bounce back and forth a little bit, but I have to finish my cull, come back into Lightroom, and then in library mode, go read metadata from files. And what that's going to do is actually import all the stars and colors. I have to do this before I open the editing. And the reason is that editing is also metadata. So when you do it that way, when you read the metadata, you're either going to overwrite your edits or you're going to overwrite your stars and colors. One or the other happens. So in this case, that's what I decided to do. So you can see all my rejected photos here that have no stars and colors, and then all the duplicates have the yellow, and everything's got stars and colors now. So now that that's done, I'm going to quit Lightroom, and I'm going to head back into Aftershoot, and I'm going to click on edit again because that catalog's already connected. Let's edit under a funny profile. Why not? Let's see what it looks like if we just do something totally wild. And so again, I'm going to click on continue. And then now I'm going to just choose to filter again by the 5 stars in the green. Doesn't matter if it's flagged or not for me. So just these 36 photos in here. Actually, you know what? Let me just do this really quick to show you. Sorry. Choose from recent. This would be the same process I would go through. So I'm, again, choosing to go crush screens and all of those things. I'm going to click on continue. And now you can see there's 134 photos here. So I'm going to choose that. And again, it's just my 5 stars and greens that I want to edit. But that's the really cool part about unlimited editing. You can actually edit everything. So I could just say, hey, select all, edit all 134 photos for me. And it'll go through and edit all 134 photos in just a matter of minutes. Because again, the smart previews are built. Everything's good to go. So that's what I would do. With everything in there, it only takes a little bit more time. So I edit everything, and then it makes it a little bit easier to adjust things on the fly. Because sometimes I will be in Lightroom and I may see a photo where I'm like, I feel like I did a better version of it, or maybe I'm trying to edit it a certain way or crop and straighten a certain way and I can't. And so that's what I would do. So now I'm going to open up that Lightroom catalog. And again, we're going to have some pretty funny edits. So they should look really weird just because that's not my style. I guess they're not bad, maybe a little overexposed. But here they are. So now my edits have appeared and all my stars and colors are here. I can go to rated and actually filter by the 5 stars. So I can just see all the different ones. And like I said, I can actually go back to that original profile. So that's the one that we originally edited on. And this is that new version, got a little bit more punch and kind of craziness. So again, a little bit more yellow. So it's just a matter of bouncing back and forth, but there is a particular order to it. We are making some new awesome videos for you guys with the updated software. So you will see some new videos coming soon. So now I have Ask Me Anything. Let's see any questions we have down below. Does the retraining just fine tune the existing profile, or does it fully retrain the entire profile? I'm just looking to fine tune, so to say, and give the profile more lighting scenarios and edits to use. Is that correct? That's a great question, Jackie. So essentially what's going to happen is when you go for improving the profile, we're going to assess your images with some proprietary stuff and do some things that essentially makes it so that the conditions that you're giving us are now going to retrain the profile to be better in those conditions as well. So it's not just adding images to that profile, it's actually retraining it across the board for it to have a better understanding. But there is some, top secret sauce and stuff in there. So we'll take into consideration the old profile stuff too. So if you're focused mainly on wanting to just add more conditions, more lighting scenarios for it to understand from, you can use the improve profile feature and just dump those in, and it's going to retrain everything because it's actually going to consider that into the process that it uses to look for those different lighting conditions. So it's going to say, okay, you've now given me fluorescent lighting, so now I know how to edit the fluorescent lighting. And it's going to learn how to associate that compared to your normal work. What is the normal pricing start or the beta end? So normal pricing, the normal launch is going to happen in the next few months. We have a couple features that need to be released before we actually want to launch that pricing. We haven't announced the price either. So nobody knows it. So that's top secret. But yeah, that hasn't come yet. But it will be at the end of the beta. So when the beta ends, then the official pricing will launch. So you do still have 100% free usage of the editing. If you don't take the founders deal and you want to hold out, maybe pay more depending on what you're looking for, that will take just more time. So, but you can use it for free still. And can someone walk me through start to finish with my own catalog? It just seems so overwhelming for me. I locked in the WPPI pricing, yay WPPI, but I feel like I'm paralyzed to even begin edits. Absolutely. So if any of you are having any trouble, you need any help, do message support. And we do have the ability, we have some calendars available for people to actually sign up, and like we can sit on the call with you, walk you through, show you everything, help you get it off the ground. So definitely, we're always watching support and trying to make sure that we're helping you guys out as best we can, because it is something new, right? If you've never done AI editing before, this is a totally new process. So it's something definitely to learn, and we want to help you guys learn it. And so with that being said, I think we got to the majority of comments. I want to thank you all. There's still 50 of you here, so I'm glad you all hung around and wanted to see a little bit more of the workflow stuff. There's definitely some other things that we can do available to us. So thank you all so much for watching, and we hope to see you all soon.